What's up, guys? Welcome back to today's episode of The Sports Sermon. We are brought to you by Scooch, the most functional phone case on the market. Check out ScoochCase.com to get yours today and use the code SPORTS18, sports with a Z, of course, to get a 10% discount on your order. Stay tuned till the end for a special Scooch giveaway as well. But now, today's episode. So we are here today to talk about the fantasy football tight end position. I am Jason Gandhi. I am here with Dan Majors and Dylan Staggy. And like I said, tight ends, they go super looked over. No one really talks about them besides Rob Gronkowski, but they can be make or break players in your fantasy league. So we decided to go in and make a whole episode about them. We have some questions on specific tight ends. We have some questions on drafting tight ends in general. And then, of course, like every fantasy football episode, we will be ranking our top tight ends. But make sure you follow the show on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at jgandhi2425. Follow Dan at dmajors44 and Dylan at staggydylan. Of course, follow the show at The Sports Sermon, sports with a Z. But boys, let's get right into it. Specific tight end number 1, Travis Kelce. Do you worry about him without Alex Smith this year?
I worry about him a little bit. I mean, Travis Kelce has never had a QB that is not Alex Smith. And Alex Smith is a guy that loves to check the ball down, loves his safety blanket, and Travis Kelce. I don't think Kelce is quite worth his price tag this year with a new quarterback in Mahomes that loves to air the ball out.
See, I'm not going to worry about it as much. I mean, Mahomes, I think he's still going to feed him because that's his best option, and he knows he's an elite tight end. He's the only 2 elite tight ends that I have. So, and Kelce's just coming off of back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, so I also say no like Dan. I think a reliable tight end can be the best friend for a rookie quarterback. I worry more about Tyreek Hill than I do Travis Kelce because he makes his money on long balls, and there's no guarantee that Mahomes can accurately hit those. Yes, he has a big arm, but can he accurately throw them? Kelce is still a very reliable tight end. He had 20 red zone targets, which ranked 3rd at his position. I'm not worried about it because rookie quarterbacks like safety, and no matter how much of this narrative that Patrick Mahomes will air it out the entire time, the fact of the matter is he's going to have to check down. He's going to have to play it safe when it gets to the second quarter, 6 minutes left on a 2nd and 5. Like, he's not going to be airing it out deep 50 times a game. So I still think Travis Kelce is 1,000% reliable, and if he's your guy, go get him. So, last year is a big year for tight ends. It was Evan Ingram came on and stormed onto the show. Zach Ertz. A lot of different guys showed up that we really didn't expect. Some guys fizzled out like Martellus Bennett in Green Bay. So, since Hunter Henry got hurt, we all know that it was hurt early. He was very popular as a breakout star. Who is your guy's new breakout star as a tight end?
So I think there's a lot of guys that have the potential to, a lot of young guys, but my guy is going to be George Kittle. Him and Jimmy G had a solid connection the last few games of the season last year, and he should be on the path to get even more targets this season.
I like O.J. Howard. He had an up-and-down rookie season and finished in the top 20 in fantasy points among tight ends. The Bucs, they spent a 19th overall pick on him for a reason, so I could see a surprise season from him.
Yeah, Dylan, you mentioned George Kittle. That's a very popular one, especially at ESPN. That's one I've seen a lot of names. Dan, O.J. Howard is one I did not see a lot. He seemed to be very popular last year. Then when it didn't really work out, people kind of jumped off that bandwagon.
I mean, they used a 19th overall pick on him, so like...
Yeah, I just think it's, for me, I'm concerned about him because they have a guy like Cameron Brate. How do you value maybe the second best tight end even on his team as a guy that I'm starting? For me, I went with Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Blake Bortles loves his tight ends, and I'm high on the Jags this year. I think ASJ has a lot of potential. I like guys who are on teams with not much else around them. They get the most opportunity, and that kind of goes into my next question of, are there any rookie tight ends to keep an eye on? That's what I'm going to just say mine because that's kind of how I segued into it. Mine's Mike Gesicki. I really like him, and that's the same reason I talked about Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Both of them have not many options around them, and they're going to have to step up to make their offense reliable. We all saw the bomb that went viral from Tannehill a few days ago that he caught, but I think he's more than that. He's a reliable option for this Dolphins team that doesn't have much besides Danny Amendola. They have Devontae Parker. He hasn't really worked out in that experiment. Kenny Stills is just a deep ball threat. I like Mike Gesicki as a sleeper. I wouldn't draft him, but a guy that I would keep, hey, week 1, week 2, say he gets 6 targets but only catches it twice, then he gets 8 targets, catches it 3 times. No one's going to really die to go get him, but you have to keep an eye on those things. I'd look at Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, I said Mike Gesicki too. Also another guy in Hayden Hurst. The Ravens spent a first-round pick on him. Again, don't draft either of them because they are deep sleepers, but definitely keep an eye on them for the waiver wire because those are both guys that the Dolphins and Ravens spend big picks on. And again, they don't have a lot of targets around him. The Dolphins don't have a number 1 wide receiver. The Ravens have a new cast of wide receivers coming in. So
yeah, the Hurst one's interesting. He already caught a touchdown from RG3. I like that, actually. I didn't even think about him. I don't know. I guess with Hurst, I'm worried because they drafted 2 tight ends. They also drafted Mark Andrews. And so that one kind of scares me. Just like I said, I want guys that are going to have the most opportunity to catch the ball. And that's why O.J. Howard and guys like that scare me.
See, I don't see any rookie tight ends, honestly, making an impact this year. There aren't many rookie tight ends that make an immediate impact. In this class, I don't think they're talented enough to change that narrative.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go in general. Are there any tight ends worth stealing earlier than their ADP?
I like Jordan Reed. Obviously, he has the health concerns, but Alex Smith loves to feed his tight ends, and the Redskins wide receivers are really underwhelming this year.
This is a guy that Jason mentioned earlier, in Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I think he will ball out if Bortles gets him involved, and I think he will. With Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns gone, I think he will be very solid.
You could have gone with Allen and Robinson, Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah. I wrote 3 guys down that I really like based on where they're going. Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram, and Jordan Reed. Those are 3 guys I'm targeting as potential steals where I can go up and get them and they still outperform their ADP. I really like Ingram because that offense I think is going to be lethal. Kyle Rudolph, you know what you're getting. He's consistent. He's going to get you points. And then Jordan Reed. He's a guy that I'm grabbing if the way my team's shaking out that I feel comfortable drafting 2 tight ends. There's a really good combo I like of Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis in Washington. If you can afford to do it, try and snag both of them. I know it sounds crazy getting 2 tight ends on your team, but it's a heck of a combo because Alex Smith has played with Vernon Davis in San Fran, and Vernon Davis is one of the best backup tight ends. But also, if Jordan Reed goes down, he goes into that top tight end conversation right away. And Jordan Reed ranks second among touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, when he's been healthy. And so if he's not healthy, go get your guy in Vernon Davis. Those are the guys that I really like based on ADP. But what is your guys' strategy on tight ends? Do you go get Gronk as early as possible? Do you wait back and try to find a steal like Jack Doyle last year? What is your guys' strategy?
So usually I'm pretty bad at drafting tight ends, honestly. I usually just draft wide receivers and running backs way too long, end up having to stream tight ends. Which usually never works out for me. This year, I would try to stay out of the Gronk, Ertz, and Kelsey. I think those guys are going really early for the kind of upside that they provide. Gronk because of injury, Kelsey because of new quarterback, and Zach Ertz. I mean, I'm not sure if he can sustain the production from last season, but I would try to snag one of the top 9 tight ends, which we'll talk about in just a second with our top 10s.
See, I look at Gronk in probably late 4th, and then I get my running backs and wide receivers filled before I get anyone else. So, yeah, Gronk pretty early in the 4th round, but then other than that, just go for other guys after you get your running backs and wide receivers taken care of.
Yeah, so for me, I always wait on Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz, Delaney Walker, and Greg Olsen. Those 5 are always way too high for me, where I still want to establish the depth. After that, I go get my guy I think I can steal. I've drafted as early as the 7th round for Jordan Reed in previous years, but I've also waited until the 3rd to last round and got Clive Walford a few years ago. I just want to get my guy, and whatever round that feels necessary, I do. Obviously, the Clive Walford pick did not work out, but, it's really, there's no round that I really target it, how we talked about in the quarterbacks episode, I wait until I get 4 running backs and 4 receivers, then I go get a quarterback. For me, it's just, where's my guy going? Like I said, if it's a Kyle Rudolph, a Jordan Reed, and Evan Ingram, if one of those are going 7th round, I'll snag them. If it's 9th round, whatever. I think, for me, it's more player-based than it is round by round.
Yeah, I feel like the top 9 are pretty sure things, though, for me this year.
That's interesting on who our top 9s are, then. Because what if I don't have one of your top 9s?
Ooh.
Who's your number 9? We'll get into it right now. Dylan, who's your number 9?
What about my number 10?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, go to number 10. Yeah.
All right, my number 10 is going to be Trey Burton coming to the Chicago Bears this offseason. he provides a lot of upside, but it still isn't completely proven yet, so that's why he's not inside my top 9. He should get a lot of targets, though, for the Bears.
Yeah, I have Trey Burton at number 10 also. I really like the fit. Matt Nagy helped have Travis Kelce turn into a star, the reason that he's going number 1 or 2. And I think Burton's going to be running those same similar routes with him and Deion Sims and Adam Shaheen. I talked about this in our Bears episode that we did earlier today, but I'm really excited to see the Trey Burton, Adam Shaheen 2 tight end sets. I think those are going to be really interesting, but I see Trey Burton being a guy that goes under the radar but could fill that Travis Kelce role.
Yeah, I like that. I have O.J. Howard at 10. I talked about him earlier, but I also think he has a top 5 tight end ceiling.
All right, number 9, Dylan?
I'm going to go with Kyle Rudolph at number 9, and the biggest reason is because he has a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and he is really touchdown dependent, but he is really good at catching touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah, so I have Jack Doyle at number 9, and this is because everything I've heard about Eric Ebron, and when we went to training camp, he dropped so many balls where I don't trust him. I had him 2 years ago. He flopped then. I've watched him myself at training camp with the Colts. It looked bad. So I think Jack Doyle is going to establish himself as the number 1 tight end, get a lot of targets, because we all know that Jack Doyle and Andrew Luck are going to Andrew Luck's going to have to get the ball out quickly, and I see Jack Doyle being a guy that's a recipient of that. And maybe T.Y. Hilton's production goes down a little bit, but maybe Jack Doyle or Eric Ebron, whichever one does get that number 1 spot, goes up to that number 1 option role in the Colts offense. Also, I want to just make, that was the end of my tier 4 of tight ends. I always rank mine by tiers. Tier 4 was the young tight ends that might be able to make some noise, but also aren't as safe as the other ones. So that was the end of that at number 9.
See, for me and Doyle real quick, I would target him a lot more if you're in a PPR league, just because he gets a lot of short type of catches. Last year, if you look at his stats, he got a lot of receptions actually and made a big dent in the PPR leagues, but he didn't really catch a lot of touchdowns
He also
or
didn't have
put
a
up big
quarterback,
yardage
though.
numbers.
I don't know. For me, I don't think he had a good quarterback, so that they didn't score very often in general. I mean, you know firsthand the Colts didn't score that much. So I think if you give him an Andrew Luck, when it gets to the red zone, you're not throwing a fade to T.Y. Hilton. You might be running a route for Jack Doyle, I guess, is where I find the value, is that red zone production with an Andrew Luck if he stays healthy. I could see that being an interesting red zone combination.
Yeah, I'm just worried about Eric Ebron with Jack Doyle.
I just don't trust him. I mean, we saw him. He dropped so many balls.
Yeah, but
and that's one day training camp, but also the Lions. He flopped for a reason there. I mean, he was a first-round top 15 pick, and he flopped. So for me, I don't think he's a sure thing. And so I'm going to keep monitoring the situation. I mean, I don't have my first draft until 20 days from now. We'll see 3 preseason games. So I want to see who trots out with the first team. I mean, Thursday night, Friday night, which day do they play? Thursday night, they're playing the Seahawks. Andrew Luck's going to play. Who goes out first? Is it Doyle or Ebron? Those are the things you want to monitor during the preseason. I mean, I've talked about that in almost all of these episodes, is watch the preseason. I know that it's sometimes boring, but these are things you can learn. I have an entire list of I think it's 20 different position battles that I want to keep my eye on. Watch where they rank them in the depth chart, who trots out, when they trot, all those different things. There's a lot you can learn from the preseason for your drafts.
Yeah, and I mean, last thing with that, I wouldn't be too concerned about Ebron either, because I think the Colts want to use them both. They've even been putting Ebron more as a wide receiver.
In the slot, or as a wide receiver too, and then moving someone else into the slot?
I think they've just been moving him all around.
Okay.
They kind of using him more as a wide receiver because he's not that great of a blocker. Plus, they're using they could definitely use them both in 2 tight end sets too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't study the Eagles enough. Obviously, Ertz and Burton were both good. I don't know. Did they use it as like a lot of 2 tight end sets? You would know better than I would.
I think I forget. I mean, I think they used Burton a little bit, but more when.
I was gonna say, I think they used
more
sometimes.
when Ertz was out.
Yeah,
when Ertz was out, though, Burton was great. That's another reason why I like him. But.
Yeah, I think they do use enough 2 tight end sets with the Eagles, but obviously a lot's gonna change when Reich's taking over. But anyway, let's keep going. Dan, who's your number 9?
I have Trey Burton at number 9. I think he could surprise people in a much improved Bears offense.
Yeah, number 8. Who you guys got?
I've got Jimmy Graham. I think he's pretty close with Evan Ingram and Jordan Reed too, but I like them all just about the same. But I think Jimmy Graham could definitely get a lot of red zone targets from Aaron Rodgers now that Jordy Nelson's not there.
Yeah, so for me, I did not rank him at all in my top 10. He is my tight end 13 right now. I personally do not trust Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback for tight ends, which sounds stupid. Why do you not trust Aaron Rodgers? But he doesn't use his tight ends. I mean, Dan, I told you this last year when they got Martellus Bennett. I said, don't draft him. You said, I have him tight end number 5 or something like that. I don't even know if you did draft him, but I mean, you were high on him. I wasn't. Until I see it, I'd rather be wrong about Jimmy Graham than draft him and then be wrong like that. I thought he was going to be good. I'd rather someone else get him and me be proven wrong than me take the risk on him. The history does not show Aaron Rodgers being productive with tight ends, and so I'll wait a year until I buy it.
I think this year is a little different than Martellus Bennett, though, just because Jimmy Graham is a lot more talented than him, first of all, and Jordy Nelson is gone. Rodgers is healthy. I like what the Packers are doing in Jimmy Graham this year. So
Yeah.
Where do you have him ranked?
I have him at 6.
Okay. Yeah. For me, at my number 8, I have Jordan Reed. I already talked about him a lot. He is very productive when he's healthy. The question is he healthy? If I'm drafting Jordan Reed, I'm getting a backup tight end in Vernon Davis. I won't take you through the spiel again, but definitely check out that option.
Yeah, I have Jordan Reed at number 7 again.
Gotcha.
Great when he's not injured, plus Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Well,
You have it 8, and then
at
you can
8,
say your
yeah.
7 too.
At 8, I have Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
Just because you know what you're getting in him. So, solid pickup for Kyle Rudolph.
Who's your 7 while you're on it?
Delaney Walker. He was one of the better fantasy tight ends last year, and I expect the same. And I also think Mariota will improve this year, so that'll help him.
Yeah, you have him lower than most people. I think I have Walker higher than that. For my 7, I have Kyle Rudolph. Dan talked about him at number 8. I like Kyle Rudolph a lot. I love Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. I think it's going to be a great fit. They have so many weapons. That's one guy that does scare me because they have weapons when I'm a guy that likes not very many weapons for my tight ends. But Kyle Rudolph is so consistent, I'm not too worried about it. Dylan, who's your 6?
I have Evan Ingram at number 6. His targets might go down because of OBJ coming back to the Giants and Saquon Barkley probably getting some more carries than the Giants gave off last season. But he's still a physical beast and someone who could catch a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I also have Evan Ingram. He had 115 targets, which was second among all tight ends. One stat that does concern me a little bit, he only saw 11 red zone targets. Hopefully that changes based on better offense from Saquon Barkley and OBJ being healthy, but I think only 11 is concerning for a guy like Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I just talked about Jimmy Graham at 6. That's where I have him.
Number 5. This is kind of where another tier starts to make for most people. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I have Delaney Walker at number 5. Again, that's another team where he could get a lot of targets because the wide receivers aren't a sure thing for the Titans, and Mariota's fed him a lot over the past few years. I would expect it to continue.
I have Greg Olsen at my number 5. I don't think he is a guy that you need to worry about too much. He's very consistent. Him and Cam Newton have a great combination there. Norv Turner comes in as the offensive coordinator. The worst positional finish that Greg Olsen's ever had is 8th. So for me, I'm drafting him 5th, and I don't think he's going to be the worst that he's ever been. So I'm comfortable getting Greg Olsen 5th.
Yeah, I like Greg Olsen at 5. Also, if healthy, then he could be a top 3 tight end.
Yeah, I have Olsen at number 4. Again, great connection with Cam Newton. Just has to stay healthy and not slowed down due to age.
Yeah, I've got Delaney Walker at 4. You guys already talked about him. Dan, have you said your 4 yet?
No.
Okay, who's your 4? I want to see if it's just we have the same 3 is what I'm asking.
I have Evan Ingram at number 4. He was top 7 in fantasy points last year, and with an improved team, I think he has a higher ceiling.
So that means our 3, unless I'm mistaken, is Gronk, Kelsey, and Ertz. That's the order I personally have 1 through 3 is Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz.
Yeah.
Gronk's the only elite tight end I have. Kelsey and Ertz are high ceiling, high floor tight end 2s, or second tier tight ends, and then obviously the other guys. Dylan, what's your ranking of those 3?
Yeah, Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz.
Dan?
Definitely.
Sweet. Yeah. I have one just kind of question as we were going through this. A guy that I want to bring up just real fast, Tyler Eifert. We know he was incredibly productive that one season that he was healthy. Do you trust him in fantasy? Obviously, it's similar to Andrew Luck's situation where when he's healthy, he's great, but will he be healthy? What do you guys think? Do you trust Tyler Eifert?
Maybe pick him up late, but...
Yeah, if you're like me and forget to draft a tight end, then maybe you pick him up as your first kind of flyer guy that you have to draft a tight end for your draft, and then if he doesn't work out, just go ahead and stream tight ends all season long.
Yeah. For me, I'm not touching him until he's a free agent. I wouldn't draft him for sure. But, yeah, that was just a question I wanted to bring up real fast. Any last thoughts on these tight ends? We didn't really talk about Gronk at all. Anybody got any thoughts on Gronk?
I don't think it's ever worth it to draft him. I wouldn't never give up my RB1 or wide receiver 1 to
I think he's 23rd right now on ESPN. That would be roughly, if in a 10-team league, your third pick, unless...
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's just, unless you go up and get him. But, yeah. Well, that's going to do it. I mentioned in the intro, a Scooch promo, 10% off. I'm going to change that for you guys at 15%. Go use scoochcase.com and go get yourself a case, a mount, and other items. But another thing I want to give you guys, if you guys comment below anything, everything, whatever you want to comment, you will be entered for a free Scooch case in the month of August. So make sure you do that. Thank you so much for listening. I already told you where to find the show. If you didn't listen, go back and find it. We will see you guys later.